In today's video, we're going to walk you through how to get roofing leads inside Google Ads. And whether you are a roofing company or looking to run ads for a roofing company, this video is going to help you do so. And the reason why Google Ads works so well for roofing companies and also just any trades businesses in general is that you are able to get yourself in front of people that are actually searching to get the job that you offer done. So you're able to get yourself in front of people that, want what you offer, and we're going to show you, exactly how to do that in this video and actually get them converting into leads for your campaign. And just to show you some examples of roofing campaigns we've run. So this is a roofing campaign based in Ireland with a really low budget of about €20 per day, which, we'd recommend, not being viable in almost all cases. But for that campaign, we gotten 220 leads at a cost per lead of only about €20. And this is a campaign for a roofing company based in Manchester in the UK, with data for the last 30 days showing a cost per lead of just under £45 and 30 leads in that time. And then a campaign for a roofing company based in the northeast of the UK, based around the Newcastle area, showing data for the last week with 8 leads in that week with a cost per lead of just over £50. And this is to just show you an idea of, what kind of results are achievable by running Google Ads for roofing companies. And just to mention as well, there really is no, exact cost per lead you can expect to get for roofing overall. It really does depend on the locations that you're targeting and the cost per clicks of the keywords in that location. Because, for example, for the campaign in Ireland that we're running in very low competitive areas. Whereas if we were running in the most competitive cities, the cost per click would most likely be a lot higher, meaning that it would be a lot more difficult to get conversions for that low amount. While in the UK, it seems to be a lot more achievable to get leads for the 40 to £50 range and, even lower in some cases. But for example, if we were running campaigns for roofing in the US, then it would be very unlikely that we'd be able to get conversions for this low of an amount just because the cost per clicks of the keywords for roofing in areas like that are a lot higher. So it's all relative to where you're based. But assuming that you'll have the same setup and same structure overall, then you can expect to get similar results in terms of things like your click-through rate and conversion rate and so on. But some things like your cost per click are out of your control depending on the competition in your area for those keywords. But this video will show you how to run a campaign as profitable as possible for roofing, no matter where you're based. Now, it's also worth mentioning before we go through, the different stages of creating your campaign, including your keyword research and so on, is that you really want to focus on the type of leads that you're looking to achieve. And we found that running Google Ads, you're really able to achieve like the best quality leads possible. And usually those types of leads come from getting phone calls. So that's why, which I'll also show you in a moment, is why we also use a lot of call ads for the roofing companies that we're working with, because most of them are just looking to get as many phone calls as possible. And you obviously still want to have the option for people to fill out a form if they go to your landing page, because you'd be missing out on a lot of leads if you didn't. But you also want to be trying to optimize to get as many phone calls as possible. So as you can see here, you want to optimize for phone calls on your landing page and also calls from the ad itself. So whether you're running a call only ad where people can just call you directly from the ad as the main call to action, or if you're running regular search ads, then you want to set up a call extension where people can also call you directly from the ad. Because as you're most likely well aware, any potential customers that call you are usually the ones that are most likely, looking to get the job done. So we want to make sure that these are optimized for quality leads as much as possible and only tracking the types of leads that we want to attract. So as you can see here, we don't have any conversion actions for anything apart from somebody submitting a form with their contact details on our landing page, or somebody calling us directly from the ad, or calling us directly from the landing page itself. Now, when you're making a roofing campaign or any campaign inside Google Ads, your keywords are the first place you want to start. And the main thing you want to be aware of is, choosing keywords with intent and, you know, targeting keywords for your campaign that indicate that the person on the other end is interested in a roofing job and actually looking to get a job done. So what you want to do first of all is actually go to the locations here, and you're basically able to select the location that you're looking to target. So you don't want to target by full country or anything like that. But for the purposes of this video, we'll just leave this as is. But after you select the location that you're looking to target, then you want to add in some relevant keywords relevant to what you offer. So let's just say, for example, roof repair near me and roofer near me, for example, just to get some examples of keywords. And now what we're going to do here is press get results. And then once you do that, you'll see a big list of keywords appear down here. So you'll see the likes of roof repair near me, roofer near me, roofing companies near me, roofing contractors near me, and so on. And what you can see here is how many monthly searches these keywords are getting on average. And what's also very important is the cost per clicks of the keywords in that location as well. So you have your low range, which is the minimum any company is paying per click for that keyword, and the high range as well. So this is why, cost per leads can vary for roofing or any other service from location to location because the cost per clicks can vary so much depending on the location that you're targeting. Now we're going to walk you through what the initial campaign setup for this would look like in a moment, but just to be aware, if we were doing our keyword research first, once you select the types of keywords that you want to target in that location, you come over here to the top of bid, usually the high range, and see what the max amount anyone is paying per click. And what we're going to do with this number, let's just say €10 in this case, because that seems to be the maximum anyone's paying per click. Then what we can do is set our maximum cost per click bid limit to this number. So basically, we're able to use this to tell Google that this is the maximum amount we're willing to pay per click at the beginning. And we also use this number to determine what our daily budget is going to be. Now, I have a much more detailed video on, this whole topic. It was actually the first video on the channel if you'd like to check that out. But just to be aware, this is what we would do to determine what our maximum cost per click bid limit is going to be and also what our daily budget will be as well. So we'll just remember the number €10 just for the argument's sake for this video. So the most important thing you want to do with your keywords then is go through the full list here, and what we usually prefer to do is you can press download here to download your list as a Google Sheet, where it's simply just a lot easier to copy and paste your keywords into another Google Sheet where you have separate columns. And what you want to do in advance as well is decide what services that you want to get more inquiries for. And if you're a roofing company that offers all aspects of roofing, then targeting the likes of Roofer Near Me and roofing companies near me and so on is perfect. But if you only want, for example, roof repairs and roof replacements, then you probably don't want to target the likes of Roofer Near Me because you can be attracting all types of inquiries related to roofing. So you want to make yourself aware at the beginning, what types of jobs do I actually want to get from this? So what I would usually do is, make out a game plan where, I want like to focus on these three core services, or I want to be getting all types of roofing inquiries in general. And this is going to form the basis of our ad group structure then, because we run multiple roofing campaigns and we have different ad group structures depending on, what the client is looking for. And usually what we would do is have either service specific based ad groups where for example, you can have you know, separate columns for each ad group, and in each column, then you'd have, for example, if you wanted roof repairs as as a specific set of ads, you put the likes of roof repair near me, roof repair, roof leak repair near me, metal roof repair near me, emergency roof repair near me. Anything related to roof repair would go into a roof repair related ad group. So the intent is all lined up. And then let's say if you wanted chimney repair jobs, then you'd also, put chimney repair in up here at the top and add in all your chimney repair keywords into a separate ad group for chimney repair. And what we'll do here then by splitting our keywords up into separate ad groups, we're going to be able to make ads that are highly relevant to what the person is searching for. Because if somebody's searching for a chimney repair, for example, you don't want them seeing an ad that's just saying like, trusted roofers in your area. Because that's not what they search for. They're looking for a chimney repair. So we obviously want to write an ad that's relevant to chimney repair. And then you can also have, your general roofing ad group if you're happy to get inquiries for any aspects of roofing, where you can have roofer near me, roofing companies near me, roofing contractors near me, and so on, where you can just have general roofing ads then that aren't service specific. And what we also like to do then for those that aren't looking for service specific ads is that you can also have location based ad groups where, let's say if you're targeting a major city, You can have separate ad groups for the most populated suburbs or towns within that city. And if you're targeting a specific city and you're looking to get all types of roofing inquiries, you can have location specific ad groups where if somebody is searching for roofer in Lucan, for example, or roofer in Swords or roofer in Malahide, you can split up your keywords at the location level. So if somebody is searching for one of these keywords, then they'll get an ad that appears that says roofer in location. So that way you're also making it more relevant to what they search for. So it's completely up to you which way you want to structure your ad groups. But what I'd always recommend doing at the beginning is making a Google Sheet and making a list of columns depending on the intent of the keywords that you want to target. So you could do a few service specific ad groups, for example, roof repair, chimney repair, roof replacement, and so on. And then also maybe a few location specific ad groups for the most popular locations that would be getting the most searches in the area that you're targeting. And a general roofing ad group as well for, those that are just looking to get as many roofing inquiries as possible and aren't necessarily fussed about which service that they appear for. So you want to do your keyword research at the very beginning to split up the keywords that you want to target into the separate ad groups that you're going to be running, and also to determine, which keywords are actually worth targeting that are getting searches each month, and also to determine, what our max bid limit and daily budget is going to be, which I'll show you how to do as well. So now that we've had a brief overview of, what the initial keyword research looks like and started thinking about, what our different ad groups are going to look like as well, depending on the type of inquiries that we want to get. Just to show you what the initial setup of this campaign would look like, we're just going to go to new campaign once you're in the overview section of your Google Ads account and just press new campaign. And here now, so if you're running a campaign for roofing, we're always going to be looking for leads at the beginning. And when you come down here to use these conversion goals, you can keep this as is because you're going to be setting up your own conversion tracking. And for the campaign type, then we always want to go with search, especially at the very beginning when you don't have a lot of data, because using search is basically you're able to use the high buying intent keywords that we went through at the beginning. And with search ads, we're basically able to show our ads to the right people that are actually looking for what we offer. And then when you come down here to select the ways you'd like to reach your goal, you can leave this as is for now, but if you are looking to run a call campaign, which I can also show you in a moment because it's something that we're doing for the clients that we're working with that are just looking to get as many phone calls as possible, you can select phone calls here. But if you're running a regular search campaign, you can leave this as is and then just name the campaign something relevant to, your company, just so you know. For example, you can call it roofing campaign company name. So you can obviously put your company name in this case and then press continue. So we're going to make a new campaign and then you'll come to bidding here. So what we usually want to do at the beginning of a new campaign, because something we've noticed that when we focus on conversions at the very beginning, that Google will charge us, a very high amount for clicks and not necessarily getting a good conversion rate from those clicks because Google doesn't have much relevant data at the beginning on what type of users are most likely to convert from clicks into leads or phone calls or form submissions. And max conversions as a bidding strategy generally works best once you already have enough relevant data inside the campaign. And so we also like to have control over what we pay per click at the very beginning. So what we do at the beginning is set our bidding strategy to max clicks and set a maximum cost per click bid limit. And using the maximum cost per click bid limit that we found when using the Google Ads Keyword Planner, we'd put in €10 in this case. As you remember from when we were in the Keyword Planner, that we saw that the high range for the cost per clicks was about €10. So we'll set that to €10. And what we'll be aiming to do then with our bidding is to aim to get, enough conversion data within the first 1 month or a bit longer. And as long as you have a decent amount of conversion data, for example, even 15 to 30 conversions in the last 30 days, then you should be able to switch over to maximize conversions then and set a target cost per action. And then what would you be aiming to do from there then is to just continue to optimize and bring down your cost per lead month after month. And for customer acquisition, then you just want to leave this blank. So you don't want to bid for new customers only and then press next. And then with campaign settings, so this is really important. You want to make sure that you uncheck both Google Search Partners Network and the display network, because usually this just leads to, a complete waste of traffic and might get you some cheaper clicks overall, but you're not going to get any qualified, top quality leads from having these two turned on. So you just want to make sure that you have those turned off from the very, very beginning. And then also really important when it comes to your location targeting. First of all, you obviously want to go from all countries and territories to adding in your own location. But also something that's really important to remember at the beginning is going to location options and changing this from presence or interest to presence. Because if you're targeting a specific area, like you would be for running roofing, then you don't want to have this selected because you're going to get inquiries from people that are way outside your target area and it'll just be a complete waste of budget. So always remember to keep this selected to presence. And once you have this then selected to enter another location, you're just going to come here to advanced search and you're going to enter in your location either by place name or by radius. So let's say you wanted to target a specific county, for example, Dublin in Ireland, you can do that. Or what you can also do if you're based in a specific town, let's just say for example, like Newbridge here, you can do a certain mile radius around that. Just to show you what that looks like as well. So you can also do a circle around a specific area. It's completely up to you which way you want to set your location targeting, either by place name or by mile radius, works just fine either way. And what you want to do then once you've set that is just press save. And then the next step then is you come down to your languages and this should be automatically set by default to English or your own language. And you usually just want to make sure that you don't have multiple languages running for the same campaign. If you're in a country that speaks multiple languages and want to run multiple languages, then I'd consider running separate campaigns for each language. I wouldn't have multiple languages in the same campaign as it's a lot harder to track, where the results are actually coming from. So I just make sure you're only running the campaign in one language. And then you come down to your audience segments and you want to just make sure that this is selected to observation mode as well, because we don't want to be targeting anyone specifically at the very beginning, because we prefer having our targeting set up at the keyword level and location level, because if we're running a campaign with high buying intent, exact match keywords, which I'll show you in a moment, and we're also targeting the right locations, then we don't need to target specific audiences as well. What we can do is we can target these audiences later down the line once we have enough data on them. And observation mode is the best for this because we're able to just collect data on different audiences without having to target them specifically. So what we like to do for audience segments is to have this selected to observation mode. And then we just want to select as many of these as possible because we don't actually have to target them specifically. So basically target as many of these as possible. And for example, since we're running a roofing campaign, you can just type roofing into the search bar and you'll see that we already have roofing selected. But anything else that's even remotely related is also worth selecting. So we can come to browse here, for example, and under who they are, we can just basically start selecting all of these because they're only audiences that we're collecting data on. So we're not targeting these specific people. And, there might be some audiences that, just don't make any sense to target at all. For example, current college students, because obviously they're not going to be the ones looking for roofing jobs. And same at renters, so we'd have homeowners selected but not renters. And then, for all these different things like employment and so on, we can have as many of these selected as we want because we're only going to be collecting data on these anyway. And then you can also select, a bunch of different in-market audiences if you like. As long as you have this selected to observation mode, then you can have as many different audience segments collected. And what you can do then in a few months' time is go into your audiences and you'll actually have data on each of these and you can always target then whichever ones are converting the best at that point. So you're best off just making sure this is selected to observation mode and targeting as many audience segments as you like. Broad match keywords, then this one should be off by default, but just make sure that it is just in case it's not, because we don't want to be targeting broad match keywords for our campaign, especially for something like roofing, because if you're targeting really good keywords like roof repair near me, for example, but you have it selected to broad match, then you could most likely start appearing for things like roofing suppliers, roofing yard, roofing materials, and these aren't the types of searches that you want to appear for, and will usually just lead to a lot of wasted clicks and your budget going down the drain. So we're going to add exact match keywords for our campaign for the most part, as long as we have enough search volume to do so. And I'm going to show you how to make sure that your keywords are exact match once we get inside the campaign. And then also with automatically created assets, you want to just turn this off. Just make sure that it is turned off. And then for more settings, for ad rotation, we usually prefer optimize rather than do not optimize. The difference between the two is basically that in each of your ad groups, there's going to be three separate ads in each ad group, which is the way we like to set up our campaigns. And if you have this set to optimize, then Google is going to show whichever ad of the three is performing better more often than the other two. Whereas if you select this to do not optimize, then Google will show each of the three ads equally, even if one is, performing a lot worse than the other. So we'd rather have the best performing ad being shown more often, but it's completely up to you, but we prefer to set this to optimize. And then for more settings, basically everything else you can keep as is, but the ad schedule is also something you want to change. Because if you're looking for phone calls, for example, you either want to be able to answer the call or return the call within a few minutes. Or even if you're looking for form submissions, then you ideally want to get back to a form that's submitted within 30 minutes, in an ideal scenario. You don't want to be responding to leads like 10 hours later, because the chances are they're going to have gone with a different company already at that point. So usually you want to set this to whatever hours that you're operating and will be happy to answer leads straight away. So in a lot of cases, we see campaigns where, they mightn't want to run on weekends at all, which is fine. You can select the campaign to run Monday to Friday, and you can decide the hours as well that you want to run. So, for example, you can do 9 to 5, or we've also done a lot of campaigns that do 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's completely up to you and completely dependent on the company and the ad schedule they'd like to go with. But once you've selected the ad schedule that you'd like to use, then you can just go to next. And then you'll get the option to have, AI help you make your ad, which we want to skip. And now this is where we're going to start putting in our keywords in our ad before we just publish the initial campaign. And we're going to get asked to put in the keywords of our first ad group and write our initial ad, which is why we like to do our keyword research and determine, what our ad group structure is going to look like from the very beginning. And to just explain briefly again, we want to use the Google Ads Keyword Planner, like I showed you at the beginning, to split up all the keywords that we want to target based on intent. So if we have a bunch of keywords related to roof repair, then we want to group those together. If we have other services that we want to focus on, then we also group them together in a separate column, as the keywords in each column then will be highly relevant to one another. And for roofing in general, we usually recommend doing this at the service level, where you have the likes of roof repair as an ad group, roof replacement as an ad group, gutter replacement as an ad group, chimney repair as an ad group, and so on, with highly relevant keywords to each of those, which all basically mean the same thing, so that we're going to be able to write highly relevant ads for those keywords. And what you can also do as well is you can have a general roofing ad group where you have your roofer near me, roofing company near me, roofing contractor near me, and all those types of keywords together in an ad group as well. And also, if you'd prefer to use location specific ad groups, so let's say you're targeting a major city, let's say Manchester, for example, like we are for one of our clients, then what you can do, have location specific ad groups where if somebody's searching for a roofer in Rochdale or a roofer in Stockport or a roofer in Oldham, for example, then they're going to get an ad that is specific to that location, and you'll have location based keywords for that ad group. But you want to just have this decided in advance, your keywords all listed in separate columns inside Google Sheet. So that way it's just so much easier to set up your ad groups and ads once you already have that done at the very beginning. But let's say we wanted to run a roof repair ad group here, then what you can just do is name the ad group first of all, and you'd obviously copy and paste your keywords across from a Google Sheet, having already done your keyword research. But what you do is you'd put in, the relevant keywords. So for example, roof repair near me, roof repair, and roof leak repair, and so on. But you'd generally have, a much bigger list than this, having actually, done your keyword research. But that's just to give you an example of, inputting your keywords. And now we're just going to give you a brief idea on, like, how to write compelling ad copy for roofing. And just to be aware of, with your ad copy here, the whole purpose of the ad copy itself is to get the click, and our landing page then, which is where they'll go after they click on the ad, is where we want to convert them into a lead. So the main thing to be aware of is we're not trying to sell them our roofing services on the ad copy itself. We're only trying to get them to click on our ad. So what we want to do is obviously enter in our final URL at the beginning, which should be a landing page as opposed to a general website at all costs, because landing pages just convert at a much higher rate, which I'll show you in a minute. And now in our display path, which is basically what goes after the URL. So, let's say you have a URL, you're at roofingcompany.com or whatever, then it would say slash, you could put in roof repair here because that's relevant to what they search for. And then, for example, call us today, or else you could just have, roof in one box and repair in the other. But what we like to do with our ad copy is use up as many characters as possible, because you only have 15 characters for each display path, and you only have 30 characters for each headline and 90 characters for each description. And it's best practice in general to just use up as much of this space as possible, because the bigger your ad is overall, then the more likely it is going to be shown. Now, when it comes to ad copy, then I have a much more detailed video on this with your options when it comes to writing ad copy for responsive search ads. But your main options would be to either fill out all your headlines and descriptions and let Google Ads A/B test this for you. Or what you could do is have, just a few pinned headlines where where you have control over exactly what you appear for your headline one, and the same with your descriptions down here, and you only use two descriptions rather than all four. And if you're going with the first option of using all your headlines, then in regardless of what option you go with, core things you want to include in your ad copy are identifying the problem. So identifying the problem in this case means keyword focus. So you want to mention, roof repair as much as possible when it comes to identifying the problem, because roof repair is the problem that they're searching for. So an example of a headline for roof repair could be, local roof repair experts. And then what you would do is also use the next few headlines to be roof repair specific, because that is the problem of this ad group. And in each separate ad group that you make then as well, it would all be about keyword focus when it comes to identifying the problem. And then the next few headlines then for your ad copy would be benefits of why they would choose you. So for example, you could say free and no obligation quotes. You could use things like, 20 plus years experience and so on. And then apart from identifying the problem, which is your keyword focus, and benefits of why they would choose you, then I'd also have call to actions then as your last few headlines. So for example, call us for a free quote, or things like schedule an assessment and so on. And then alternatively, what you can do as well is, we've seen both options work equally well, but what you can also do is just have three headlines where they're all pinned. And why you would do this is that Google is only able to show 3 out of your 15 headlines at any one time anyway, where you could have this pinned as headline one. So no matter when your ad is shown, that this is always going to be your first headline. And you could have, keyword focus as headline one, a benefit of why they would choose you. So get a free quote now as headline two, and then maybe a call to action, for example, give us a call today as your headline three. And this gives you much better control over, what someone sees when they see your ad. And you can determine, a lot quicker whether this ad copy is good or not. Or else what you can do in most cases, just use all 15 of your headlines and don't pin any of them, and let Google A/B test this for you. There is no real better or worse option here, but those are just two different options that you can take when it comes to making your ad copy. What's also highly recommended to do as well for your first headline is you can use dynamic keyword insertion. So whatever the person searches for is exactly what they'll see for your first headline if that keyword is triggered. And for that, you press the squiggly bracket, and then you can press keyword insertion, and then select a default case. So basically, if the keyword isn't triggered, what's appear instead? So in this case, you can just put in roof repair, and then you can select this to title case and press apply. So that way you know that, if your keyword is searched, that's exactly what they see as your first headline when somebody searches for your ad. And this is just really powerful because, if somebody feels like they're in the right place when they see your ad, then you're most likely to get the click over one of your competitors. So what you can do with your ad copy is really just focus on identifying the problem as much as possible with your keywords, including reasons to buy. So list benefits of why they would choose you for your reasons to buy, and then call to actions using things like, call us today for your free quote. And these are the exact three elements that you want to include in your descriptions as well. So you really just want a mix of keyword focus, benefits, and call to actions in your descriptions. And this is just going to give you well-rounded ad copy overall. And then you'll also see you have the option to add your extensions down here, but we don't need to do that right now. We can go to assets later to add our extensions to our ads. But once we write our initial ad, then we can just press next. And then when it comes to budget, you're going to get recommended budget by Google, which isn't going to be, relevant because it's only going to be based on the keywords of the first ad group you included so far. We're going to set a custom budget instead. And as I mentioned at the beginning, when it comes to, using the keyword planner to check the cost per clicks of the keywords, what I usually recommend doing is setting your daily budget to 10 times whatever you set your maximum cost per click bid limit to. So that would be €100 in this case. Basically, what that means is that we know we're going to be giving ourselves a budget to get at least 10 clicks per day. And by giving ourselves enough budget for at least 10 clicks per day, assuming then that we have a high converting landing page that'll convert, at least 10%, then we know that we'll be able to get on average about one conversion per day. And we'll have the aim then of switching over from maximize clicks to maximize conversions in about a month. So that's the thinking behind that and how to set your daily budget. So once we do that, then we just press next. And basically then you'll come to this page here where you have the option to publish your campaign, which we won't do in this case as it's not a campaign that we're going to be running. But once you press publish on your campaign, the only thing you just need to remember to do is just press pause because you're not finished, adding in your other ad groups or extensions or conversion tracking or anything like that yet. So just remember to pause your campaign from the very beginning until you have everything else done. And what we're going to do in a separate video as well is show you the full setup guide for a search campaign. But for the purpose of this video and just showing you, what actually matters when it comes to getting leads for roofing, we're going to focus on, what matters next apart from, your keywords and your ad copy. Because in Google Ads, there is really three core aspects to getting the best possible results, and that's making sure you have your keyword focus, which is what we mentioned at the beginning, using our keyword planner, and making sure that you have your keywords planned out into separate ad groups based on intent, using either service specific for the likes of roof repair, chimney repair, and so on, or location specific using keywords like roofer in place and then, roofer in another place in a separate ad group. And then making sure you're writing, compelling ad copy with the purpose of getting the click. Once you've gotten the click on your ad, then the most important part then is having a high converting landing page. And now just to show you some examples of landing pages that, would convert at a high rate, because what you want to do is drive the traffic to a landing page that is highly relevant to what they search for. And what you can do for each landing page is have your overall template the same in each case, where, for example, you'd have your logo up here, some kind of social proof, phone number, form, headline, which is what we're going to change around in each case. But apart from that, you can have the likes of your benefits, more benefits, testimonials, your services, and so on, all the same, and like, about your company and things like that. But what you really want to do in each case is change around the core headline of your landing page to match up with the keywords of that ad group, and maybe some more of the words like down below as you go through the page. So if this was a roof repair specific landing page, then you'd want to change this to something like, for example, roof repair experts covering location, which would be an example of a headline that you could use. And then you'd want to just change this around to be relevant to your ad group in each case. And the purpose of your landing page is to really make it as easy as possible for them to get in touch. So as you can see here, At the top of your landing page, you have your phone button and a form that they can fill out the second they land on the page. And as they scroll through the page and see things like your social proof and benefits of why they would choose you, there's options here for a light box to appear by pressing get a quote and more call buttons throughout. So you just want to make sure it's as easy as possible for them to get in touch with you. And like honestly, that's the most important aspect of your landing page. And we've also had equal success with more even simple landing pages like this, where it's literally optimized for mobile only for the call ads that we're running. And it's literally so simple in terms of having a headline that's relevant to what they search for, which is the most important part. So you want to have as many landing pages as you need that are relevant to the keywords in that ad group. But most of the landing page can be the same apart from that. It's just about making sure that what they see is relevant to what they search for when they land on the page initially. But apart from that, then you can have, your offer, benefits of why they would choose you, a form, call button at the top, and maybe some authority markers below the form, testimonials, and before and after photos from your project. And like this is a much more shorter landing page for mobile only and would convert just as well as this more like, detailed landing page here, which you would probably expect to convert at a higher rate. But it's just about being as simple as possible, and it's not really as much about, having a really detailed landing page with so much info. Because in this case, I'd argue that there's almost too much text on this landing page, and most people aren't even going to read all this anyway. So it's really about having this hero section optimized at the very top and just making it as easy as possible for them to get in touch and having social proof. So really having 5-star reviews, making them feel like they're in the right place with your headline, and clear call to actions is honestly the most important thing you need to have with a landing page. And with that, you should easily be able to expect to get a conversion rate of about 10% or more in a lot of cases. But using separate landing pages instead of your website for Google Ads is gonna, skyrocket your conversion rate if you were previously using a general website. And you could expect to get at least double the conversion rate on average just by using a landing page and not your general website. Now, I hope this video helps when it comes to, the most important aspects when it comes to getting high quality leads for roofing using Google Ads. Now, I know that there's so much different things we could have gone into in this video, and the initial plan was to just keep this as concise as possible and cover a main few points. But there's honestly so much different things to cover inside Google Ads when it comes to getting leads for roofing that it was almost impossible not to get sidetracked and, talk about different aspects in more detail than I had intended to. But what we can do if you like is to make a full like in-depth search campaign setup from scratch for a roofing campaign, or in general for service-based businesses, because the intention for this video is to just share some core tips about how to get more roofing leads, but it almost turned into like half a campaign setup guide. But if we covered all aspects of the search campaign setup guide in this video, for example, doing all your keyword research, like showing you the full columns, writing all your ad copy, splitting up your ad copy into separate ad groups, copying and pasting out your ad groups, adding in all your keywords, and actually making your landing pages and so on, that the video just would have went on far too long for what the intended purpose of the video was to just give you some tips. So if you would like a more detailed guide on that, feel free to let me know. But I hope this video did provide some insight on what you can do to get roofing leads inside Google Ads, and these tips can be applied to almost any trades business, as most of the steps we went through are fundamental to running lead generation campaigns. And the main differences in each case would be, obviously your keyword research and splitting up your ad groups based on the relevant keywords in each case. But I hope that we went through enough detail for you to understand, what your different ad groups would look like for roofing. And if you do have any questions at all about anything that we went through in this video, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you do like this kind of Google Ads related content as well, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as we'll be posting all things related to Google Ads here daily. And hopefully we'll see you in the next video.